Hey gang, just wanted to take a quick look here at the latest design release called For Real. So this template is set up to allow multiple subject images to be put in here, and of course it can be customized and used however that you like. I just my idea was to have 3 background subjects in here and 1 foreground subject. But again, get creative with this. Create your own things. Everything's layered in here, so you can move things around and kind of do your own take on things. But what I thought I would do is just go through the layer stack here, and we'll take a look at how this thing's set up, how you're going to see it by default, and how we can make some of these changes and tweaks here easily to customize for your own teams. So let's take a look at what we got here. Now, the best way I've always found to look at any template that you would get, from anyone, to really see what it does, I like to just turn all the layers off and turn them on one at a time. So I know we haven't done that in previous videos, but that's how I usually approach it, and I thought, hey, that might be good just to suggest for people, just to get an idea of what the layers are actually doing. So what I do is I literally just turn anything off. If I'm dealing with a design or something that I've picked up from someone, I turn everything off down to the background so that as I turn things on one at a time, I can see what each thing's doing. So it just gives me a real quick overview of what's happening here in the layers. Excuse me. So we see that right off the bat we have our background color, which is just a solid color fill. So if you wanted to change that to any color, it's just a simple double click on there, pick your new color, type in your hex or your RGB or whatever you need there. You can even reach out here for a color sample if you're sampling from a jersey or something like that. So we'll leave it white for now. Above that, this is our background subjects, and as always, you'll see marked in red is where any subject layers go. So you'll see red here, you'll see red here, and that's going to tell you right away subjects go in those groups. So let's turn this background subject group on. You'll see it's got some things going on inside of it. So let's expand this group. So remember, anytime you see a folder in a layer stack like this, that means it's a group with more layers inside of it. So you just click the little arrow. That's going to drop down, and we see we actually have more groups within this group. And I like to do this multi-grouping setup for subject layers because it allows me to do some more dynamic masking. So you can see on this overall group, we have one mask that's creating this angular shape. But then when we open it up, we see there's some different masks in here. And so that's what's going to create these panels in here. And I set it up this way because, in my opinion, it makes it easier to just drop your subject in and have it mask out, for instance, for these panels. The other way you would typically do that is to have a box in here that you would have to clip the subject to, and it's just an extra step that I think this makes it a little bit cleaner. So again, if we open up background subjects, we're going to see 3 groups inside of this. So we have our center subject, the right, and the left. So let's expand one of these, and we're going to see in here a few layers again within this one. So we're going to have let's just turn these off. I've got a test subject in there. We'll turn him on in a minute. But you'll see, starting at the back here, this is our kind of block here. So this center block, that's the box for that. Now you can change the color of that. It's just set up as a shape layer. So you could double click here, and again, just pick whatever color that you want. We'll leave it black for now. This is just a placeholder that tells you this is where the subject goes. So you're going to drop the subject right above that blank layer. And we've got this brightening happening here. You'll see that's just lifting the brightness on that panel there, that block. And then we have some colorization going on right now. You can see this is just another solid color fill layer. And it's just set to gray right now. And we'll see how those interact in just a minute. But you're going to see the same thing in each of these groups, set up the exact same way. Your colorized subject, the brightening, the placeholder for where the subject is, and the block that's in the background there. Okay, and then same thing for the left one, exact same setup. Alright, so now we know what those do. The next we have these panel strokes, so that's like these stroke lines here that's separating these panels. So you could turn them off or on, or right above that there's a quick color change option here. We could just turn that on, and again, solid color fill. We could pick whatever color we wanted that to be. Alright, so simple enough there. I'm just going to turn that off and leave them white. Then we have these graphic marks. Alright, so if we turn that on, that's all of these markings on here. And there's some layering to that if we open this group up. There's those top ones that are centered across the top. We have these individual ones that can be moved around if you want to replace those, and these are like the lines of those angled X's there. Again, all that can be moved around and placed how you like. And there's a quick color change option for those as well. So you could turn that on and just color everything the same, however you like. Alright, let's turn that off. I'll leave them white. So now we see what that does. So above that, this is our background text. So that's that repeating text that's going across the background here. If we expand this, we're going to see this is set up as a series of smart objects. If you're familiar with some of the other designs where I've employed this same technique, it's going to be exactly the same. If it's new to you, we're going to look at how we change that in just a second. Okay, so you'll see there's several layers in here. This one says edit this smart object. That's the layer that we want to deal with. And do not edit. We don't have to really touch those for anything, okay, unless you just wanted to turn something off or on and customize the look. But again, we'll get back to that in just a second. Above that, we have these border lines. So background border lines 1 and 2 are here and here. So this one and this one. So that's those angled borders there. And then each of those have a color change clipped to those as well. So again, double click here, pick any new color we want, and just click OK, and it would save that. We'll just leave it as it's set for now. Another color change one here. Again, it would do the same thing to the other line. This is a background glow. So that's just going to create a glow around or behind that main subject when we put them in there. Above that is our main subject group. So that's going to be the foreground subject. So again, it's a group with a mask. We can expand it, and we'll see. You're going to drop your subject here, and you can see I've got a subject in there that we're going to turn on in just a minute. Above that is a layer to brighten the bottom of your subject. Actually, let's turn them on so you can see what's happening here. So you can see as I turn this off and on, how it's brightening that lower part of your subject. So again, you could enable that or disable that as you like. Let's turn our subject off for just a minute. So we got our background, or I should say our foreground block on the bottom right here. So that's this color block at the bottom. Again, quick color change option here. So easy enough there to change that color. We have some more of those graphic marks in here, so basically just a single one and a line. Again, you could duplicate these. If you wanted another one, just Control or Command J. You can make another one, place it anywhere you want, and create your own custom looks there. Or you could turn them off if you don't want them for some reason. Quick color change on those. Works the same as all the others. And now we have another set of borders here for the foreground. So this one and this one, with the exact same quick color change option set up there. Then we have our main text here and here. There's a couple different fonts. You will find the links to those fonts on the product page if you'd like to use the same ones that I'm using in the sample here. Some more text here. This is our facial highlight boost. Again, I put this in almost every design, and we'll take a look at that, how that works in just a second. And our color grading layers, which is going to give us some more of that punch and contrast into the overall image, so it's not quite so flat. And again, that's in a group, so that means you could expand it, and you'll see several color grading layers in here. And again, if it's too strong of an effect, you could change your opacities in these. You could turn layers on and off, so feel free to play with these to create whatever effect you desire. Alright, so now let's drop a subject in here and just show how we would customize that for our subjects, okay? So again, you're just going to drag and drop subjects into the groups where they go. So here's our main one that's going to be up front. So again, I just dragged him over from, his cutout, dropped it in here. Let's run down to our background layer, or our background subjects, I should say. So we'll expand these. Let's open each of these guys up here, and again, we'll turn these subjects on. So I've just dropped them in and made them kind of huge in there, just because I thought it's kind of a cool look of just seeing their faces. Showing large in these blocks back here. And what I do, so when I photograph my teams, I'm always getting them from 3 angles anyways, from straight on and then from the left and from the right. So I think even if you're just doing a simple workflow like that, which I do, you can use this design to still give you some options, with those 3 background, you can get that center, left, and right option in there. So I think it makes it very accessible to, most anybody doing this kind of thing. So let's talk about color in this and customizing our text and stuff. Okay, so let's make things match kind of the orange on his jersey up here more. So orange and black, school colors here. So instead of the green and black, let's switch things up. Now, one thing I would recommend when you're matching colors is to turn your color grading layers off, okay? Because they are, you can see, it's not tremendously affecting the color, and that's what this little color check option is doing up here. You can see if you turn color check off, that orange goes, you know, kind of much more red and punchy. So this is just set up on the color grade to kind of keep the colors normalized. But again, we're going to be sampling colors. I'm going to turn color grading off for now, so we know we're sampling a true color. And let's get back down here to our background blocks again. So let's start with our kind of these background subject layers here. Now the way these are set up, you're going to see the colorized subject is what's creating that overall color of that block in the background. So if we want to set this as orange, what I'm going to do is just double click on the icon here, and then I'm going to take my dropper and say, okay, I want that orange right there from the jersey, and that looks good. Now, because I know I'm going to set all of this stuff up to match, instead of sampling every time, what I'm going to do to make sure it's consistent is just copy this hex value right here. So I'm going to highlight it, Command or Control C to copy it, and just click OK. So now I know I have it locked and loaded. Now, there's, you know, some options that we can think about within these background groups. Is one, there's this brightening here. So if you wanted to go for a darker, punchier look, you could simply turn that off. Or you could just tweak the opacity of this to get, you know, any degree of kind of fading or transition there that you want. So I definitely, in my samples, I've played with tweaking these to get a little bit different looks. The other thing that I've found that I like to play with is the opacity on the subject themselves. So like, let's say I wanted to go with a little bit of a darker look by bringing this opacity down some. And then if I feel like my subject is getting too bright in that background, well, I'll just drop the opacity of the subject also, so you can get kind of more of that grayed out type of look, which I think looks really cool. So again, feel free to play with these opacities to create some custom looks on this. And so for instance, on this one, I've got my opacity on the brightness to 50%, and the opacity on my subject to 59%. So what I'm going to do, if I like that look, and I want to keep it consistent, which let's say that I do for this design, I'm going to come up now to the right side. I'm going to do the same thing. So my brightness was at 50%. So we'll put that at 50. And we'll just type it in to make it faster. There we go. And then my subject was at 59%. So 59. And now to set the color, I'm just going to click on the double click on the color layer. And now I can just paste in, Command or Control V, that same color. And I know it's going to be exactly the same. And we'll click OK. And then for that center subject, I think it's cool looking grayed out like that. I think it makes the subject stand out a little bit. But again, you could always come in and color all those the same, or you could leave that colored and even, you know, maybe come up and add some brightness to this one, make it even darker, however you want to do it. Again, please play around with this and be creative with it. Let's undo a couple of these. I like it gray, so I'm just going to leave it gray for now. So there's our background subjects. Now, as we go on up here, let's just start setting our colors. So like our border lines in the background here, we can see there's a green one right here, which is that second one there. I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to paste that value in and give it that same orange and click OK. And again, you could do the same thing. If you wanted to change that black one to orange, you could just paste that one in. Or you could make it white, or you could make it green, or you could make it whatever color you want. I'm just going to cancel and leave it black because I like the look of that. Alright, so foreground subject, we don't really have to do much there. We've already dropped them in. Again, that brightening, if you want that on or off, I'm going to leave it on. I like it. And I'm going to keep scrolling up here. So now we have our bottom borders here in the foreground. So I'm going to make that one orange. And I think I'm going to make this one black instead. So let's make that black. I like that. Let's let our text right here. So our foreground text is just normal text layers. Okay, and you're going to see there's some stroke effects applied to those, which is where some of the colors are at. But they're going to edit just like normal text. So we double click on the text here and just type in, you know, the new text. So simple enough there. Now to change the color, again, we can just come up to our properties once it's in there, Click on the color, and I'm just going to paste that same orange. Again, for me, I want it all to match, so I like that. You can see there's a green stroke line. It's the second stroke line on the last name. So if I come down to this last name right here, I'm going to come down to the second stroke, double click on it, click on the color, paste in the same orange, click OK, and that's done. And then the last thing to change to match is this background text back in here. Alright, so to change that, this is the smart object we talked about when we looked at our layer stack. So we're going to come all the way down here to our background text. You're going to see all the layers are labeled. I'm going to open this group, and right here where it says edit this smart object, I want to take this layer icon here and I want to double click on it, and it's going to open up a new document window, and it has our text in it, as you can see right here. Zoom out just a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to update that background text here, and this is just normal text at this point. So we're going to double click on this layer, and I'm going to change this over to Eagles. And what I like to do this is just type out my text with a space at the end, and then hit Command or Control A to select all of it, Command or Control C to copy it, and then hit the End key, and now I can just Command or Control V and paste, paste, paste. And you just want to paste enough so that this whole canvas is filled. So if you have any gap at the end, I'm just going to paste it again. So I want to make sure it goes from edge to edge on this canvas. I'm going to click the check mark to apply it, and then I'm going to go ahead and set my color here. And since I've copied that color hex value, it means I can come up to the color in the text, and once again I can just paste that in here. Oops, well, look at that. That makes me a liar because I copied the Eagles text. Well, no problem. What we can do is just jump back out here, grab this same orange, Command or Control C on that hex value, jump back over to our text, and now I can do it. Put this in here, paste it, click OK. Now when we close this document window, we just want to hit the X, and when it asks us to save it, I just want to say yes. And when I save it, you'll see it updates every line of that text. That's one of the beauty of those smart objects. So it's updated all of these ones that say do not edit. And you'll see, just for, I think it looks kind of cool in the background there, I do have a color change option. So if you wanted to change that line of text to just give it a little more dynamic look, and again, you could make that any color that you wanted. I think that looks kind of cool. You could also turn it off. I mean, you could also, copy this layer down to any other row and clip it and do the same thing if you wanted multiple rows. So again, beauty of layers is you can customize this to your heart's desire. So the last thing I'd want to do on this is scroll up here on the facial highlight boost. You're going to see we have a couple, one for lighter skin, one for darker skin. Since he has darker skin tones, I'm going to click over on this layer, and then I want to make sure the mask is highlighted with the box around it. And then just take a white brush, bring it down a little bit, and I'm just going to paint in just to pop the highlights on his face out a little bit there, like that. And again, you could turn that up or down for however bright you want it to be. I think that looks pretty good just to give some attention back on his face. And then the very last thing is to turn our color grade back on so we get that nice contrast and punch to it, which I personally think looks cool. But again, the beauty is you get to customize it to the look that you want. So there we go. There's a look at kind of the layer options. You're going to see in the horizontal template, it's very similar, other than just moving a couple of the text layers around in different spots, but you'll see that. So hopefully this helps, and I hope you find this design as something that gets you a lot of sales and a lot of good use out of, and can't wait to see you on the next one.